He became a billionaire, without knowing his real heir had been begging on the streets for years. And the day they finally met, destiny struck harder than any betrayal. Long before the mansions, the tailored suits, and the quiet authority that followed him everywhere, Femi had been just another young man trying to outrun poverty. Lagos was loud, unforgiving, and fast, but he moved through it with the stubborn hope of someone who had nothing except the belief that life would one day get better. Back then, he owned no car, no expensive wristwatch, no land in Lekki. He owned only dreams, wrinkled, fragile, and easily mocked. And love. He owned love. Her name was Nana. She was the kind of girl whose laughter could soften a hard day, whose smile could make a hungry stomach forget it was empty. She drifted into his life when he was a fresh university graduate still waiting for employment, a young man ironing the same shirt every morning so he could look presentable for interviews that never called him back. She brought color to his small world, a spark to his long evenings, warmth to his one-room apartment with peeling paint and a window that rattled whenever the wind blew. They talked about the future, whispered promises in the dark, shared bowls of Gary when money was tight. On good days, she would lean her head on his chest and say, "Femi, when you make it, don't forget me, yo." He would laugh softly, brushing his fingers through her hair, telling her, "I can never forget you. You are my future." But life has a way of twisting promises into painful knots. One rainy night, one storm-heavy, wind screaming, lightning splitting the sky night, Nana vanished. No goodbye, no explanation, not even a note. She simply left. Femi came home, soaked from the rain after walking miles, because he didn't have transport fare. His plan was to surprise her with roasted fish wrapped in paper, a rare treat he had bought after bargaining with the seller until the man hissed and waved him away. He imagined Nana's delighted smile. He imagined her hugging him, calling him my genius, kissing him with the taste of pepper on her lips. Instead, he opened the door to a hollow room. Quiet, bare, cold. Her clothes were gone. Her shoes were gone. The small pink scarf she always tied when cooking was gone. Only the scent of her perfume lingered in the air, faint, fading, like a memory trying to hold on. "Nana," he called softly. His voice bounced back at him like an echo from a cave. At first he told himself she stepped out. Maybe to buy something. Maybe she wanted to see a friend. Maybe the rain delayed her. Anything, everything, except the truth scratching at the edge of his mind. As the hours passed, the truth grew teeth. By midnight, he knew she wasn't coming back. He sat on the floor of the empty room, knees to his chest, listening to the rain batter the roof like a cruel reminder. In his hand, the roasted fish grew cold. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He simply stared at the door, hoping she would burst in laughing, saying it was a prank, a joke, a misunderstanding. She never did. The next morning, he began searching for her like a man possessed. He went to her friends. They shrugged. He went to her former coworkers. They shook their heads. He waited outside her old hostel. No one had seen her. He walked the length of Lagos Island, checking places they used to sit, places they used to talk, places they once dreamed aloud. Nothing. It was as if the rain had washed her off the face of the earth. What Femi did not know, what he could not have known, was that Nana didn't just leave him. She fled. She ran from the cracked walls of poverty, from the hunger, from the long days of uncertainty. She ran from the life Femi was trying so desperately to build. But most of all, she ran because she discovered something that terrified her more than love and more than loyalty. She was pregnant with his child. She panicked. The idea of raising a baby with a man who, at the time, couldn't afford 3 meals a day made her feel trapped. She had grown up watching her mother live in suffering. She swore she would never repeat that life. So she made a choice, a selfish one, a desperate one, a choice that would ripple across decades. She left without telling him. She boarded a bus out of Lagos before dawn, clutching her stomach with trembling hands as if the tiny heartbeat inside her was a ticking bomb. She moved to a distant town where no one knew her past, and no one would ask who the father was. She convinced herself she was doing the right thing. She told herself Femi would understand one day. But she didn't understand the price. Her child would grow up thinking his father was a heartless man who abandoned him before he was even born. Her son would learn to survive in the cracks of society, always searching for something he couldn't name. He would inherit her struggles, her mistakes, her loneliness. And Femi, the man who would one day build an empire, would spend his youth grieving a woman who was never truly his and a future he thought he had ruined. He did not know he carried the weight of a vanished son in his shadow. He did not know the child he never met would grow hungry, frightened, and fatherless. He did not know his greatest loss would one day become his greatest discovery. All he knew that night was that the world felt colder without her. The rain stopped eventually, but the emptiness she left behind never did. Far away, in a small room lit by a flickering bulb, Nana placed her hand on her belly and whispered to the unborn child, "Your father can't give us the life we need, so we must survive alone." And miles away, sitting on the floor of his empty room, Femi whispered into the darkness, "Nana, why did you leave me?" 2 hearts broke that night. 2 destinies drifted apart. 2 lives began a journey of pain and secrets. And somewhere in the silence between them, a boy vanished before he ever had the chance to be found. Welcome, my beautiful family and friends, to my YouTube channel. Please click on subscribe, like, share, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now back to the story. The days after Nana's disappearance carved themselves into Femi's memory like scars on stone. For weeks, he moved through life like a man with no bones inside him, just shadows, silence, and the slow ache of betrayal. He kept expecting her to return, kept listening for footsteps outside his door, kept checking his phone for a call that would never come. Every unanswered hope chipped at him until there was nothing left but the raw, stripped-down version of a man who had lost everything without knowing why. But pain, when it does not kill, has a strange way of becoming fuel. Femi did not heal all at once. He healed in fragments, in nights spent awake staring at his cracked ceiling, in days when he worked so hard his body forgot it was tired, in moments when the memory of Nana's smile would threaten to break him and he would force himself to keep moving. He turned his heartbreak into hunger, his loneliness into rage, his rejection into resolve. The world had taken something from him. He would take something back. His first step into rebuilding his life came in the form of a small IT support job in a 2-room office squeezed between a printing shop and a tailor's kiosk. The signboard hanging outside was weather-beaten, half the letters faded, but Femi walked in with a CV and walked out with a chance. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. He repaired old computers, fixed faulty cables, replaced dusty power units, and rebooted frozen systems for angry clients who barely respected him. He trekked long distances because he couldn't afford transport, often arriving soaked with sweat or rain. Yet he always wore the same neatly ironed shirt because dignity was the one thing poverty could never take from him. Still, the hunger gnawed at him, sometimes literally. There were days he ate only once, days when he went without food at all, nights when he lay on his thin mattress, clutching his stomach, waiting for sleep to drown the ache. But he refused to give up. Every evening, after work, he spent hours in a cyber cafe, reading online tutorials until the security guard kicked him out. He studied programming languages, cybersecurity frameworks, blockchain architecture, anything that could pull him out of the life he was trapped in. He was not just learning, he was climbing. And yet, even as he forced himself into progress, the loneliness remained. It followed him everywhere like a second shadow. He tried to shake it, tried to bury it under work, but some pains are too deeply rooted to silence. Sometimes, late at night, he would stand on Third Mainland Bridge, staring at the dark water below. Cars rushed behind him, spraying wind and noise, but he heard nothing except his own thoughts. If I jump, would anyone even notice? He never jumped, but he came close enough that he still remembered the cold bite of the railing under his fingers. One night, after hours of wrestling with despair, something inside him shifted. Not hope, something quieter, something harder, a realization. No one was coming to save him. He would have to save himself. And he did, slowly, painfully, like a man crawling out of a burning house. His skills improved. His confidence sharpened. His mindset transformed. When he wasn't fixing broken computers, he was building systems from scratch. When clients complained, he learned to listen, adapt, evolve. When his boss dismissed him as just another poor boy trying his luck, Femi swallowed the insult and wrote code at night that would later become the backbone of his future success. He started freelancing on the side, small gigs at first, designing websites, debugging systems, tightening security for local businesses. His first payment was barely enough to buy food for 2 days, but it fed his spirit for months. From there, everything escalated. A local firm discovered his talent. He became their lead technician. Then a bigger company hired him for his cybersecurity skills. His income grew. His world expanded. His mind stretched beyond what he once thought possible. Then came crypto. The world didn't understand it yet, but Femi did. He saw possibilities where others saw confusion. He studied blockchain until dawn, built smart contracts for foreign clients, created small tokens for startup developers overseas. His name began to circulate quietly in online communities. That Nigerian guy who delivers better than whole teams. Contracts came. Partnerships followed. Investors noticed. His bank account swelled. He moved from his dusty one-room apartment into a small but decent place, then into a bigger one, then into a serviced apartment. Each step felt unreal, like he was watching someone else's life. But it was his. He had built it from nothing, from heartbreak, from silence, from the ruins Nana left behind. By the time he turned 30, Femi was no longer just a tech expert. He was a force, one of the most sought-after blockchain engineers in West Africa. A man whose name carried weight in boardrooms filled with people who once would have ignored him. His empire grew: real estate, crypto investments, tech startups. His wealth grew: cars, houses, influence, power. His reputation grew: respect, admiration, envy. But something else grew too: loneliness. He had the world at his feet, yet felt a quiet emptiness in every victory. He dated women, but none stayed long. None touched the old wound. None softened the space where Nana once lived inside him. Sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night, he wondered where she had disappeared to. If she was alive, if she regretted leaving, if she ever thought about him. But he never imagined the deeper truth. He never imagined that while he was climbing the mountain of success, hands bloodied, heart bruised, spirit burning, a small boy with his eyes and his stubborn jawline was growing up in hardship. A child who thought his father abandoned him. A boy who learned to survive without love. A son separated by lies and silence. Femi rose from ashes, never knowing that the greatest piece of his life had been lost in the fire. The afternoon sun over Victoria Island was the kind that punished the unprepared, sharp, cruel, and merciless. Heat shimmered off the asphalt in waves, and the air felt thick enough to taste. Femi stepped out of the restaurant, adjusting his sunglasses, keys in hand, ready to drive to a meeting that could make him millions. His Mercedes-Benz GLE gleamed like a black jewel in the sun, attracting stares as he walked toward it. Another day, another deal, another chapter in the life of a man who had outrun poverty and carved his name into the granite of success. But fate has a habit of interrupting even the most carefully planned destinies. Just as Femi reached for his car door, a small voice rose above the chaos of the street. "Please, anything you can give. My children are hungry." He heard desperation before he saw it. He turned. There, by a cracked pavement where the city's noise seemed to fold into a strange silence, sat a boy. A tiny thing, barefoot, dust smudged across his cheeks, bones sharp under too thin skin. He held a rusted can, shaking it gently at passers-by whose eyes slid over him like he was air. But it wasn't the boy that froze Femi's breath. It was the woman crouched behind him, a woman with tired shoulders, a faded scarf, slippers barely clinging to her feet, a hollow look that spoke of sleepless nights and broken dreams. A woman whose face he knew, whose voice he once loved, whose betrayal had shaped the man he became. Nana. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. The heat vanished. The noise faded. Time thinned into a fragile thread between past and present. She was thinner now, her beauty worn down by hardship. The glow she once carried like a crown was gone, replaced by exhaustion. She held a toddler girl on her lap, clearly one of the twins, and with her free hand she steadied the little boy begging in front of her. Nana didn't see him yet. Her head was bowed, her lips moving silently as she muttered a plea to the next stranger walking by. Then the boy looked up. He looked up at Femi, straight into his face, with eyes too old for his small body. Sharp eyes, bright but weary, eyes that carried a strange familiarity. Femi's breath caught in his throat. He took a step closer. The boy stared harder, confusion knitting his tiny brows. Then, in a trembling voice that sliced through the moment like a blade, the child asked, "Uncle, why do you look like me?" The question echoed. Cars kept moving. Street vendors kept shouting. People kept walking. But between Femi and the boy, the world had stilled into glass. Femi's heart slammed against his ribs. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The boy stepped closer, studying Femi's face with an intensity that made something deep inside him unravel. There was no mistaking it now, the jawline, the shape of the nose, the arch of the eyebrows. This child, this small, dusty, barefoot child, he looked exactly like Femi did at that age. Before the realization could fully form, Nana looked up. Her eyes met his, and everything collapsed. Her breath hitched. Her lips parted. The color drained from her face. She froze, completely, utterly, her body locked in shock. Even the child in her lap seemed to sense something breaking in the air and clung tighter to her wrapper. "Nana," Femi whispered. The name tasted like a ghost on his tongue. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled and she sank back to the pavement, eyes wide with terror, shame, and something he had never seen in her before. Regret. Real, soul-deep regret. Femi, she barely breathed. He stepped toward her, each movement heavy with years of unanswered questions. This was the woman who broke him. The woman who vanished with no explanation. The woman who left him drowning in heartbreak and silence. But nothing, none of that, prepared him for this moment. For the twins. For her poverty. For the boy who mirrored him like a forgotten reflection. For the storm of truth hovering seconds away from breaking open. "Nana," Femi repeated, voice thick. Where have you been?" Nana's eyes darted to the boy, then back to Femi. She looked like someone caught between running and collapsing entirely. The boy tugged her sleeve. "Mummy, who is this uncle? Why is he staring at me like that?" She didn't answer. She couldn't. Femi crouched slowly, his gaze fixed on the child. The closer he looked, the stronger the punch of recognition became. The boy had Nana's chin, yes, but everything else was him. His blood, his shadow, his past, his future. A truth that had been hidden for years now screamed for air. He turned sharply to Nana. "Talk," he said quietly, dangerously. "Who is this boy?" She opened her mouth, but only a broken sob came out. The toddler in her arms began to cry. The boy looked frightened. Femi looked shattered. And in the middle of that cracked Lagos pavement, under a cruel afternoon sun, everything he had been searching for, closure, answers, possibly justice, stood before him in the shape of a child wearing dust instead of shoes. One question thundered through his mind. Why didn't she tell him? But beneath that question lay a deeper, more terrifying one. What else had she hidden from him? Nana pressed her lips together, her throat working as she swallowed her tears. The truth trembled behind her eyes. And Femi, billionaire, tech mastermind, man who had clawed his way out of poverty, felt the ground shift beneath his feet. This was no random encounter, no accident. Destiny had dragged them all back to this pavement for a reckoning. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. Night fell over Lagos like a velvet curtain, swallowing the noise and heat of the day. Inside Femi's mansion, the lights glowed soft and warm, but the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. It felt heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. In the dining room, the twins finished their plates of jollof rice with the ravenous hunger of children who had known too many nights without food. Their small hands scraped the plates, their cheeks full, their eyes drooping. A maid gently carried them to the guest room prepared earlier. Nana sat alone at the table, fingers trembling around a glass of water she hadn't touched. Her clothes were clean now, her hair washed, but nothing could wash away the look on her face. Fear mixed with shame, tied together by years of secrets. The door opened. Femi walked in. He closed it behind him with a soft click that echoed loudly in the room. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. "Nana," he said quietly, "we're done pretending. I want the truth." Her breath hitched. "Femi, please." "No," he said. "Not this time. Tonight, you speak. All of it." Tears pooled instantly in her eyes. She tried to wipe them away, but more followed, spilling down her cheeks like a confession she could no longer hold back. Femi stepped closer, the tension around him tightening like a coil. "That boy," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "The one who looks exactly like me. Tell me who he is." Nana's shoulders collapsed. For a long moment, she didn't speak. She only sobbed quietly, painfully into her hands. "His name is Kola," she finally whispered. Femi's jaw clenched. "That's not an answer." Nana forced herself to meet his eyes. Her voice trembled. "He's yours, Femi." The word struck like a thunderclap. For a moment, Femi forgot how to breathe. The room tilted. His vision blurred around the edges. His hand reached for the back of a chair to steady himself. What did you say?" "He's your son," she said again, louder this time, every word soaked in regret. "He has always been your son." A sharp silence fell between them, so sharp it felt like glass cutting through the air. Femi couldn't move. His heart pounded against his ribs like it was trying to escape. "My son?" he whispered. Nana nodded, tears spilling freely. "Yes." The ground beneath Femi seemed to detach from reality. His mind raced, trying to piece together the years, the memories, the questions he had buried. All this time, while he struggled to rise, while he survived heartbreak, while he built empires and fortune, his own flesh and blood had been wandering Lagos streets, begging. He staggered back, breath shallow. "Nana, why didn't you tell me?" She clasped her hands, voice cracking. "Because I was scared. I was stupid. I was running from poverty and from myself." He stared at her, numb. "So you chose another man over me?" She shook her head violently, tears flying. "Kola was never his father. Never. He only had money. Money I thought would save me." Her voice broke. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I left because I didn't want to raise a child in suffering. I thought you would never become anything. I didn't believe in you, Femi. I was wrong." Pain slashed across his face. "Then why didn't you come back when you saw I succeeded? Why keep the child from me?" Nana sobbed harder, fingers gripping her skirt as if trying to tear the guilt out of it. "Because by the time I realized what I had done, I felt too ashamed to face you. And then everything collapsed." Femi's gaze sharpened. "What collapsed?" Her voice turned small, thin, fragile. "Kola's empire." She swallowed hard. "He was into internet fraud. Yahoo. I didn't know at first. But when EFCC raided, they took everything. Cars, houses, money, everything. He was arrested." Her breath shook. "And I was left with nothing. Nothing, Femi. Not even transport money. I had 2 children. One was yours. The girl, she's Kola's daughter." Femi ran a hand over his face, trying to process the avalanche of revelations. "You were sleeping under bridges," he murmured. "Begging on the roadside with my son." Nana nodded helplessly. "I couldn't get a job. No family wanted me. No friend took me in. I went back to the streets." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "We slept in markets, in unfinished buildings. We ate whatever kind strangers offered. Some nights, we didn't eat at all." She sobbed again. "The boy, your son, he nearly died twice from fever. Once from hunger. I thought I would lose him." Femi's knees gave way, and he sank slowly into a chair, breathing hard. His chest felt like it was being crushed by invisible hands. "My son," he murmured. "My own son. A child who carried his features. A child who had his stubborn jawline. A child who should have grown up in comfort, in safety, in love. But instead grew up in fear, in hunger, in dust." His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. "Nana, he suffered because of you," Femi said, voice shaking. He slept on dirty floors while I slept on cotton sheets. He starved while I ate well. He begged while I drove past in luxury cars. Tears streamed down Nana's face. I know, she whispered. God knows I regret it every single day. But I can't undo the past. Femi's head dropped into his hands. Years of pain resurfaced. Years of heartbreak, of wondering why she left, of rebuilding himself through agony. And now this truth, that the one piece of his heart he didn't know existed had been cast into suffering, felt like the final blow. He lifted his face slowly. His eyes glistened with something dangerous and wounded. You stole my son from me. Nana's sobs were silent now, the kind that come from a place too deep for words. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. But sorry was not enough. Not for years of silence. Not for a boy who looked into his eyes earlier that day and asked, Uncle, why do you look like me? Femi closed his eyes, the truth settling like a blade driven straight into the center of his being. His child had grown up believing his father didn't want him, and that truth hurt more than anything Nana had ever done. For years, Femi had mastered the art of silence. He had learned to bury pain beneath success, to drown heartbreak under wealth, to tame every emotion until nothing could shake him. But tonight was different. Tonight, something old and dangerous woke up inside him. Something he hadn't felt since the days he stood on Third Mainland Bridge, staring into the dark water. Something sharp, something cold. Anger. Not the wild kind that screams. Not the fiery kind that breaks things. No, this was the quiet kind. The kind that turns the air to ice. The kind that makes a room feel like a storm is gathering in invisible corners. Femi stood in the center of his mansion's sitting room, fists clenched, breath low and controlled. Nana knelt before him, her face streaked with tears, her voice cracking as she pleaded. Femi, please. I beg you, don't take him from me. He didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on a memory, the small barefoot boy who had looked up at him earlier that day and asked, Uncle, why do you look like me? A question no child should have to ask. A question that had stabbed straight into the deepest part of Femi's soul. You stole my son, Femi said quietly. Quietly, yet the words hit harder than any shout. Nana let out a broken sound, something between a sob and a gasp. She lowered herself until her forehead touched the cold marble floor, trembling violently. I was wrong, she cried. I was foolish. I know I hurt you, hurt him, but please don't take him away from me. He's all I have. Femi finally looked at her. His face was unreadable, carved from stone. Do you know, he said, voice measured, that while I was rising, while I was building everything you see here, I used to stand in my balcony and wonder why God made me so alone. Nana covered her mouth, sobbing harder. Femi continued, his voice still calm, but carrying the weight of years. I thought I didn't deserve love. I thought I wasn't enough for you. I thought your leaving meant I was a failure. His eyes darkened, all the while my son was sleeping on the streets. Nana shook her head frantically. I didn't mean for him to suffer. I tried, Femi. I tried so hard. But life punished me for what I did. Femi stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. No, he said. Life punished him. That was the real wound. Not her betrayal, not her disappearance, but the boy, the small boy who shared his features, his smile, his stubborn little chin, his blood, a boy who should have known comfort, safety, warmth, but instead knew hunger, dust, and fear. I can't undo the past, Nana whispered desperately. But please don't take him from me. He needs me. Femi stared down at her for a long moment, his jaw tightening. Does he asked. Nana looked up, startled. Femi's voice softened, not from kindness, but from resolve. He needs safety. He needs stability. He needs a future. A pause. He needs a father. She clutched his trouser leg, fingers trembling. Please, Femi, I will do anything. Just let him stay with me. I'll work. I'll change my life. Just don't take him. But Femi gently removed her hand. The decision had already settled in him long before this conversation began. I've made up my mind, he said. Nana crumpled, her sobs echoing through the room like shattered glass. But Femi walked away. He did not shout. He did not insult her. He did not press salt into her wounds. His silence was punishment enough. Later that night, the mansion was quiet. The twins slept in the guest room, two small bodies curled under soft blankets, unaware that their world was about to change forever. Femi stood outside the boy's door for a moment, gathering himself. When he stepped in, he found the child sitting awake on the bed, his legs crossed, holding a small toy car the maid had given him. The boy looked up as Femi entered. "Uncle," he said softly, "is Mummy crying?" Femi's chest tightened painfully. Children always sensed more than adults believed. He sat beside the boy, forcing his voice steady. She's sad, but she will be okay." The boy nodded, trusting him instantly. Such trust nearly broke Femi. "What's your name?" Femi asked gently. "Kola," the boy replied. Then he frowned. "But Mummy sometimes calls me Femi Jr. when she's very tired. I don't know why." Something inside the billionaire cracked. He swallowed hard. "Do you like living outside? On the road?" The boy shook his head quickly. "No. It's scary. People shout. Sometimes they take our things. Sometimes we sleep in places that smell. I don't like when my sister cries because there's no food." Femi's eyes closed. He took a deep breath to steady himself. "What do you want?" he asked. The boy looked up with innocent hope. "I want to sleep in a bed, and I want to eat every day, and I want to go to school like the other children I see." Femi felt his heart break and rebuild at the same time. All the money he had ever earned suddenly felt meaningless. He reached out, gently brushing the boy's hair. "Do you know something?" he whispered. The boy shook his head. "You're a strong boy, stronger than you know." The boy smiled, small, shy, but bright. And in that smile, Femi saw himself, his childhood, his struggle, his stubbornness, his fire. He saw not just resemblance, he saw destiny. The boy leaned into him without hesitation, and Femi wrapped his arms around his son for the first time in his life. The warmth, the weight, the reality of the moment hit him so hard his eyes burned. He held the boy tightly, fiercely, as if trying to make up for every year he had missed. And in a voice rough with emotion, he made a vow. "You will never suffer again." The boy nodded sleepily against his chest. "I believe you," he whispered. And for the first time in a very long time, Femi believed in himself too. Morning arrived not with gentle sunlight, but with a kind of cold clarity, clean, sharp, and unmerciful. The mansion's curtains swayed softly as the early breeze seeped in, but nothing could soften the tension thickening the air. Femi had barely slept. He had spent most of the night sitting near the boy, watching him breathe, memorizing every detail. The way he curled slightly when he slept, the gentle movements of his chest, the faint hum he made when dreaming. The child had no idea his life was about to change forever. By dawn, Femi had made up his mind. No hesitation, no second thoughts, no wavering. His son was leaving with him. That decision rooted itself so deeply inside him that even the rising sun couldn't shake it. By 8 a.m., the mansion was buzzing with movement. A private school had already sent enrollment documents. A live-in nanny arrived with her suitcase, bowing respectfully. A pediatrician was scheduled for the afternoon. The security team was briefed. New clothes were folded in neat piles in the boy's soon-to-be bedroom. Every step Femi took, every instruction he gave, carried the weight of a father reclaiming years stolen from him. The boy watched with wide, curious eyes as men in suits moved in and out of the house, as maids brought in bags of groceries and toys, as his world shifted without him fully understanding it. But Nana understood, and her world was collapsing. She stood in the center of the living room, hands trembling, face pale and swollen from crying through the night. Her voice cracked as she watched arrangements unfold around her. "Femi, please, please don't do this," she whispered. He didn't stop walking. He didn't turn. He only said, "It's done." She grabbed his arm. "Done? You think you can just take him like that? He's my child too." Femi turned then, slowly. "And he's my son," he said, voice low, steady, terrifyingly calm. "My blood, my responsibility." Her breath stuttered. "But I raised him." "You raised him in the streets," Femi countered. "Begging, starving, suffering." Nana's lips quivered. "I did my best. and your best nearly killed him. The words slammed into her, stealing the strength from her knees. She sank onto the couch, sobbing into her palms. But Femi did not comfort her. Not anymore. Minutes later, as the nanny dressed the boy in new clothes, soft cotton, bright colors, shoes that actually fit, Nana suddenly rushed toward them. "Don't touch him!" she screamed, grabbing the boy and pulling him close to her chest. "He's not going anywhere." The boy flinched, startled, confused. "Mummy, what's wrong?" Nana clung to him desperately, crying into his hair. "I'm your mother. I'm all you have. Don't let them take you." Femi stepped forward, his calmness colder than ice. "Nana," he said, "let him go." She shook her head wildly. "No, you can't take him. Not like this." The boy looked between them, frightened. "Mummy, Daddy, what's happening?" That word, Daddy, hit Femi with a force he wasn't prepared for. He closed his eyes briefly, gathering himself. When he opened them, his resolve hardened. "Nana," he said, "you chose this life, not him." She dropped to her knees, clutching his trousers so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Please," she sobbed. "I know I made mistakes. I know I failed him. But don't take him from me. I'm all he knows. I love him. Please, please don't separate us." Femi's face didn't soften. If anything, the firmness in his eyes deepened. "I'm not punishing you," he said. "I'm protecting him." She shook her head violently. "No, you're punishing me. Femi, don't do this to me. I swear I'll change. I'll work. I'll become better. Just give me my son." Her cries echoed through the mansion like a haunting plea. But Femi was unmoved. "I will not let my child pay for your choices," he said quietly. The softness of his tone only made the words cut deeper. Nana reached for the boy again, but he hesitated. For the first time in his life, he saw something different. A room full of light, kind faces, warm clothes, food waiting on the table. A life he had never known. He looked at his mother, then at Femi, and with a small, uncertain smile, he slipped his hand into Femi's. Nana broke, completely. She collapsed onto the floor, her cries raw and animalistic, echoing off the mansion walls as though her soul itself had shattered. The walk to the car was slow. The boy held Femi's hand tightly, glancing around in awe at the luxury vehicles parked in the driveway. When they reached the GLE, he gasped softly, "Daddy, is this your car?" Femi's throat tightened. "Yes," he said gently, "and now it's ours." The boy beamed, pure, innocent joy lighting up his small face. "This is the first time I'm entering a car," he whispered. Femi swallowed hard. He opened the door for him. The boy climbed in, excitement buzzing through his tiny body. Inside the mansion, Nana's sobs turned into screams. "Femi, please, please don't take him. Please don't leave me like this. He's all I have. Femi, Femi." But the engine started. The gates opened, and slowly, the car rolled out of the compound. Nana burst through the front door and ran toward them, but the guards held her back. She fell to her knees in the driveway, reaching out toward the car as if she could pull it back with sheer desperation. "Please," she screamed. "Don't do this. Don't take him from me." The gates closed. The sound echoed like a final sentence. She collapsed on the ground, shaking, broken, empty. And in that moment, she realized something far worse than rejection, far worse than regret. She hadn't just lost a man. She had lost her future. The mansion felt different when Femi walked through the doors that evening. Not bigger, not quieter, just fuller, as if the house itself exhaled after years of holding its breath. He carried the boy gently in his arms, light, fragile, exhausted from a day that had completely rewritten his destiny. The child's head rested on Femi's shoulder, eyes heavy with sleep, fingers curled loosely around the new toy car he refused to let go of. For a moment, Femi just stood there in the entryway, listening to the soft breaths against his neck. It didn't feel real. This boy, his son, the child he never knew existed, the blood he once believed he didn't deserve to pass on, he was home with him. "Come," Femi whispered softly. "Let's get you cleaned up." The boy nodded sleepily. Femi took him upstairs himself, ignoring the house staff who offered to help. This wasn't a task for nannies or maids. This wasn't a duty to delegate. This was a moment he needed to feel, to live, to absorb into the deepest corners of his soul. The bathroom lights glowed warm as he filled the tub with gentle steam. The boy stared around, wide-eyed. His voice was small. "Is this all for me?" Femi knelt beside him. "Yes. Everything here is yours." The boy smiled, the shy, hesitant smile of someone who wasn't sure if he was dreaming. Femi washed him carefully, tenderly, removing days of dust that had clung stubbornly to his skin. The boy giggled as the water tickled him, and the sound, light, pure, innocent, made Femi's heart twist. When the boy stepped out, wrapped in a warm towel, he whispered, "This is the warmest water I've ever felt." Femi had to turn away for a second because emotion hit him harder than he expected. Warmest water. The phrase haunted him. All his wealth, all his cars, all his investments, and his own son had never felt warm water on his skin. He breathed through the pain and forced himself to stay calm. Tonight was not about regret. Tonight was about restoration. He dressed the boy in soft pajamas and carried him to the bedroom prepared earlier, its walls painted in gentle forest green, a small reading lamp lit in the corner, plush toys arranged neatly on the bed. The child's mouth fell open. "Daddy, is this really my room?" Femi swallowed the lump in his throat. "Yes, it's yours. Forever." The boy's eyes glimmered. "No one will chase me out. Never. Even if I finish the food. Eat as much as you want. Even if I sleep too much." Femi smiled through the ache in his chest. "Sleep as long as you like. Even if I cry." The boy's voice broke a little. Femi sat beside him and placed a hand on his cheek. "You can cry. You can laugh. You can be anything. You're safe here." The boy nodded, leaning into his touch. In the dining room, Femi brought him a plate of warm food, soft yam and eggs, and sat beside him as he ate. The boy took small bites at first, as if afraid the meal might disappear. But when he realized no one was watching him with impatience, he relaxed and ate properly. Not greedily, just gratefully. When he finished, he whispered, "Thank you, Daddy." 2 words. 2 simple words. But they dragged tears from Femi's eyes before he could stop them. He quickly wiped them away. The boy noticed. "Daddy, are you sad?" Femi shook his head. "No, I'm happy. But why are there tears?" He knelt beside the boy's chair, cupping his small hands in his own. "Because I didn't know I had something this precious," he said quietly. "And now that I do, I won't lose you." The boy smiled, slow and sleepy. Can you sleep beside me tonight?" Femi hesitated only for a second before nodding. "Yes, I will." Later that night, after the boy fell asleep, his tiny chest rising and falling softly, his fingers still curled around the toy car, Femi sat beside the bed, watching him. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He simply stared at the miracle breathing next to him. The room was dim. The mansion was silent. Only the distant shimmer of the swimming pool reflected soft blue moonlight across the walls. And in that silence, memories returned. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the hunger, the nights he slept on concrete floors, the loneliness that nearly swallowed him whole. The years he thought love was a luxury designed for other people. All those years, all that pain. And yet, here he was now, a billionaire, a survivor, a fighter, a father. He placed a hand gently on the boy's back, feeling the warmth through the pajama cloth. For the first time in his adult life, Femi cried without shame, without restraint, without fear. Silent tears slipped down his face, falling onto the bedsheet. Tears for the years stolen. Tears for the child who suffered. Tears for the man he became. Tears for the father he was determined to be. After years of success without purpose, years of wealth without meaning, years of power without peace, he finally found what had always been missing. Not a business deal, not a mansion, not another car. A heartbeat. His son's heartbeat. His air. His blood. His second chance at life. He leaned close and whispered into the quiet room. No force on earth, no woman, no past, no secret will ever take you away from me again. And in the soft darkness of the mansion, with the pool shimmering under the Lagos night, a broken man finally became whole. If you were Femi, would you forgive Nana, or would you shut the door on her forever? Thank you for watching this story to the end. Please click subscribe, like, and share this video. Click on the screen to watch the next one.